You're going to make sure that you spray the bike down really well with soapy water. And then we'll rinse it off from there the best that we can. Try to get as much of the heavy stuff off that you can. Again, like I said, I don't suggest you do this unless you're going to completely take the bike apart. Move that oil, bud. For the most part, most of this stuff should come off fairly easily. Next, we'll move on to disassembly of the bike. So, right now, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the seat first, and then from there, we'll remove the handlebar, or not the handlebars, but we'll remove the stem and handlebars together. I may go back and lubricate the stem bolts just to make sure that they don't seize up. For our particular seat clamp, you're gonna need a let's see, you're gonna need a 4mm Allen wrench. Loosen it up a little bit, pop the lever over, pull the seat off. Mr. Brady will get to clean this out and make it look good. With taking off the stem and the handlebars, I'm going to go ahead and take off the cranks. That way I can lower the bike down when I get everything apart, or as I take things apart. May not be in order, but I try to. We got our particular cranks. We use I guess they'd be inserts to protect the threads for your cranks. Keep the dirt out from inside the bolts and such like that. The ones we use, they're aluminum. Although that they're aluminum, I'm still going to put them into the oil that I have here. Next, I will take out take out the crank bolt. This bolt should be it should be an 8mm. The ones we're using titanium bolts. I'll also stick this into the oil just so that way that it has a good coating of lubricant on it. That way there can't be any corrosion or seizing or anything like that as we go. Taking out the non-drive side, and then we'll go from there. For the stem, you're going to use a 5mm Allen wrench to loosen the bolts. These are the rear stem bolts, not the stem cap bolt. Although our particular one uses the same size. Like I said, right now I'm not going to take that apart. For the steer tube cap, or the headset cap, you're going to, in our case, you'll use a 4mm. Some of them are different, some of them are 5. Usually the ones that come with your particular headset are going to be I believe they'll be a 5mm, just like the stem. Again, everything that I take off, I'm going to place into the lubricant. That way there can't be any corrosion or anything like that. Next, I will go to my chain tensioners. I'll make sure that I take my 10mm boxed in wrench. I'll loosen the 10mm nut that's on there. This is what I showed in the beginning of the video. From there, you're going to go back to your 5mm and loosen up the chain tensioners. They're not, you don't really want to use them to tension your chain. What you want to do is try to get your chain where you want it to be slightly loose, and then use these so that way if the tire slides that it doesn't kink off the chain or do anything to make it out of alignment. But that'll be for another video, most likely, for me to show you how to adjust things and the such. I'm going to go back on our particular bike. You're going to use your 8mm Allen wrench. You'll remove your wheel set. Our wheel set is removed with the 8mm. I'll show you on this front wheel. Right here is what I'm loosening right now. That way it can be removed. Make sure when you if you got to take the front wheel on and off, make sure that you place, if you have the cones, make sure that they're placed in the same spot every time. And also make sure that you evenly tension or evenly screw in your bolts for your wheel set. Now I've removed the front wheel. I'm going to squeeze in the brake levers or the brake arms and remove the brake cable. I'm going to remove my chain. In this case, we do have a master link on our chain. I'm going to remove the chain and let it soak in the lubricant. I'm going to take the master link out so that way I don't lose it. Place everything in there with my lubricant. Now I'm going to remove the rear wheel. Make sure when you set your bike down, if you have to set it down on concrete or you don't have something soft to set it on, that you're very careful that not to smash the teeth of your chain ring. I probably should have took the cranks off before I did that, but this is just the way I do things. It's really sometimes a good idea to take and put some grease or something on your crank puller. That way, if it's a little bit tighter inside, especially on the square tapers, that it does not get stuck in there. Now that I have both of them off, there is one tool that I didn't mention. I'll show it to you here in a second. You have your spanner wrench or bottom bracket wrench. It can be used for that, as well as when you go ahead and remove the nut, the jam nut that holds on your cog. Right now, I'll go ahead and take my 5mm and I'll remove the brake arms. That way I can completely disassemble the brake system and everything off the frame to be clean. I will probably not on camera, but I have to put lubricant down the brake line. It's very important that you do that because it will corrode. If it does corrode, it could stick or not work at all, and you could end up with a bad wreck, or you know, the kids might get hurt in one way or another, or even yourself if you race. Again, I'll place these bolts into my jar of lubricant. I'm using Marvelous Mystery Oil. You can use regular motor oil, you can use WD-40, you can use whatever that you'd like to use. As I take the bike apart, I am inspecting it for if there's any cracks or structural damage to the bike or to the parts themselves. Just keep an eye out for any kind of cracks or parts that might be too worn to work properly, and that type of thing. Now that I have the brake cable removed, I'll take off the I'm going to take off the stem and the handlebars, if I can make sure I got it loosened up enough. Take off the rest of my spacers and place those in the lubricant. Now I'll remove the forks and the headset. There's the top piece of your headset. It looks like we got some mud in there, some crud. It's going to need to have the lubricant replaced on that stuff. If you can't get the headset out, I'll use, or the bearings for the headset, I use a screwdriver. But see, this race was yesterday, and you can see that there's rust on here already really bad just from that. That's why I don't suggest spraying your spraying anything that is on your bike, because rust can set in anywhere. See, this bearing's already got itself stuck up in there just since yesterday. Let me I'm gonna turn you off for a second, and I'll be right back because I gotta try to figure out how I'm gonna get that out of there. All right, now I've got those pieces out. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll disassemble the bottom bracket. I'll try to move you in closer so you can see what's going on here. I'll take my spanner wrench. You can either use the 3-prong side on this particular jam nut, or I can use this one here. I usually use this end just because it's easier to do. Let's see here. Alright, I got one more tool, I guess, the bottom bracket removal tool. I'm going to see, I think I may have tightened this so that way it would jam up better, but yeah, let me see, I'll try the 3-prong side and see if it works out better. Alright, so it's removing the whole thing. I'm going to hold it with my tool and remove the jam nut. Now I'll take and remove the bottom bracket cup. See, there's dirt packed in there. We'll wipe all that out, and I'll repack it. I'll repack the bearings with grease to make sure that it's lubricated properly. Now I'll take and remove the bottom bracket spindle. It's also covered with dirt and gunk. I'll go to the opposite side, use my bottom bracket removal tool, and end up, let's see, we'll remove this here. You can hear that the dirt got inside of there. See that it's all gunked up. That's the complete disassembly. There's you could take the stems off for the brake levers or brake arms. I don't do that. I'll lubricate them while they're on there. On the wheel set, you want to remove any nuts or bolts that are holding your wheel set on. In this particular case, the cones as well. We've got a bushing that you can take it off if you want. I don't usually take them off. on the rear. We'll take out those axle bolts as well. Remove everything. The chain tensioners we'll clean separately from everything else. The bolts and stuff, they'll go in the lubricant with everything else. On ours, you can see there's a coupler here. They're different on each, on other wheel sets you'll have like a nut that can also be used for holding the axle on or adjusting the tension on your bearings. I'll take that off and off the camera because I want to be able to pay attention to what I'm doing so I don't end up losing anything or misplacing anything. On the forks, you want to make sure that you clean out this race. Make sure that you can clean out the dirt from everywhere, your mounting surfaces and everything else. And then if your aesthetics, make sure you clean it off in general.